habla?
No sé quién demonios habla porque hay interferencia. ¿Quién habla?
Pues váyase al diablo. No sabe quién
Who's
habla.
that for? Who is this motherfucking
No
mess?
sabe quién habla, no sabe quién tiene
Now I
celular.
just check it connected.
Podemos jugar un rato
Another
con el celular
video?
del maestro, miren.
So why did this just making disconnected to?
Podemos buscar números.
Are you fucking serious, Lavies? You piece of shit.
Perdone, está el señor Morado.
What is getting you
¿Quién es el señor Morado?
Pues al ser un camote. ¿Quieres un camote?
A mi prima Dora.
¿A tu prima Dora?
Sí. ¿Habla Dora?
Sí, habla
What
Dora.
is just making it lag in the sound, man? You making crazy.
Muy bueno. O sea que podemos marcar números los que queramos y jugar con el teléfono del viejo Patiño.
Me gusta. Sí.
Bueno, estamos hablando de la fábrica de refrigeradores, Friosa, o sea, Frío S.A. Estamos inspeccionando haciendo una encuesta. ¿Su refrigerador está caminando?
Sí, está caminando.
Pues agárrenlo, se va a salir de la casa.
I hate it.
Bueno,
Okay.
Don Diablo.
Anyways, there.
Don Diablo.
Hands because he was supposed to be more human. So we gave him gloves. So, in addition to saving time and providing color contrast, gloves bring non-human things to life, making their grand gestures stand out. These 1935 tea kettles from Van Buren Studios have them. This movie camera does too. When Pinocchio is a puppet, he wears gloves. But when he becomes a boy, they disappear. They're no longer needed. But there's another, less practical influence behind cartoon characters' white gloves. The Opry House is a film about Mickey putting on a big vaudeville show. That film and many of the animations that predated it were inextricably linked to vaudeville performance and the blackface minstrel shows of the time. In fact, early animators often performed on vaudeville stages. Nicholas Salmon writes in Birth of an Industry that early animated characters like Felix the Cat, Bimbo, Bosco, and Mickey Mouse weren't just like minstrels, they were minstrels. Both the cartoons and the stage characters were portrayed as mischievous and rebellious, yet good-natured. They wore loose clothes, had painted faces, and they wore white gloves. In the 1930s, vaudeville and blackface minstrelsy declined. White gloves were no longer associated with vaudeville to a new generation of viewers. Instead, they were just part of the cartoon style people came to expect.
Well, there was also a band concert. You know that film?
It's from 1935.
One of the characters is a cow character called Carabelle Cow, and she plays the flute, and her glove gets stuck in the flute. So, really strange without the glove on.
60 years later, Goofy takes off his gloves before getting in a pool, and it's frankly really disturbing. Now, what's really bothering me is why Daffy Duck and many other animated birds don't wear gloves. We might never know.
Look, let's not split hairs. Why do you even wear gloves? Because I've always worn them. It's who I am. Why do you wear that thing around your neck?
Touché, Bugs Bunny. Touché.
Yo tengo una tarjeta para hablar por teléfono, pero no sirve. Mire, bueno.
Hello everyone, this is Chris from Spoon Graphics, back with another video tutorial for Adobe Illustrator. Today we're going to have some fun creating a retro mascot character design of a hot dog, using inspiration from the classic cartoon style of the 1930s known as Rubber Hose. Imagine the early Disney or Fleischer Studios characters with their bendy limbs, pie-shaped eyes and three-fingered hands in white gloves. We'll use a combination of the brush and blob tools to construct the illustration from scratch, then incorporate a limited colour palette and subtle texturing to suit the retro look. I'll show you some of my favourite illustrating techniques and brush settings to help you draw your own fun character design. The idea for this character came from a couple of signs outside a general store full of vintage memorabilia that I visited during my recent trip to America. The signs seemed to be from an old movie theatre, and featured a soda cup and hot dog turned into cartoon characters with chubby smiles walking along in a happy pose. I've since seen loads of other great examples of similar mascots via Pinterest and Google, featuring all kinds of anthropomorphic objects, all with cute facial expressions and gleeful mannerisms. Check out my showcase of character illustrations inspired by 1930s cartoons over at Spoon Graphics as a starting point to gather some inspiration. Today's video is sponsored by Envato Elements, the ultimate creative toolkit for designers. Envato Elements saves you time, effort and money with unlimited downloads of premium design and stock templates. We're talking over 600,000 creative items made from the world's best designers, including print templates, graphics, photos, fonts, and now royalty-free audio tracks too. Envato Elements literally has all the creative assets you need under one flexible, budget-friendly subscription. Check them out today by hitting the link in the video description below. To create your own retro hot dog character, begin by opening Adobe Illustrator and create a new document. The size doesn't really matter because the artwork will be in scalable vectors, so I prefer to simply go to View and Hide Artboards to give myself a nice large work area. Select the blob brush and then double click the tool to edit its settings. Move the slider to maximum smoothness, then bump the size to around 100 points. If the pressure option is set, change it to fixed. Draw 3 slightly curved lines to represent the sausage and bun, making all 3 roughly the same curvature, but the middle one slightly longer. You can take a few attempts to find the perfect stroke, so use the Command or Control key on Windows and Z shortcut to undo and try again. Give the 2 outer shapes a colour fill to represent the bun, then the middle one a swatch that represents the sausage. Move the shapes into place, overlapping them slightly. It's best to use basic shapes to construct the main body wherever possible, but to illustrate the face and hands, some freehand drawing is necessary. Create a new layer, then lock the original to avoid accidentally selecting it. Bring up the Layers panel via the View menu if it isn't visible already. I've always had mine placed in the bottom left, but it might be hiding elsewhere in a different workspace layout. Select the regular brush tool, then reset the default black stroke and clear out any fill. Choose a rough brush tip, such as charcoal, just to make these sketch lines feel more organic. Then reduce the opacity of the brush in the top toolbar to around 10%. Begin sketching out the eyes, nose, cheeks and mouth to form a face. If you're using a pen tablet, loosely sketching these elements feels quite natural, but it is possible to draw with a mouse. Taking inspiration from existing cartoons can help you achieve the simplified art style. One advantage to sketching in Illustrator is your brush strokes are all saved as individual paths, which means you can easily move them around or alter the size to perfect the appearance. Loosely drawing a basic shape like a circle, then building up details with darker lines is a really useful technique. Make any tweaks to the layout of the sketch lines, then lock the layer and create a new layer for inking. A great way to achieve a realistic inked style with tapered lines is to create a new brush. Select the ellipse tool and draw a short and wide shape. Click the New icon at the bottom of the Brushes panel, then select New Art Brush. OK the settings, then delete this shape. Use this new brush to trace the sketch with neatly drawn lines. The thickness of the lines can be adjusted by altering the weight of the stroke. To draw the arms, switch over to the blob brush. Double click the tool to edit its settings and bring the size back down. Trace the sketch lines with a thick stroke. Use the brush tool again to trace the line work of the hands. Use the direct selection tool to tweak the paths once they've been drawn.
Are you talking to me?
Repeat the process to draw the legs and feet, using the blob brush to create the thick mono weight lines, then the brush tool with the tapered brush tip to ink the rough sketch. There are some other areas that need blacking out, namely the eyes and mouth. Change the blob brush settings to enable pressure, then trace and fill the pupils of the eyes and the mouth. Use the square bracket keys to alter the size of the brush tip to accurately stay within the lines. To create the classic pie eye shape, use the pen tool to draw a triangle that overlaps the pupil. Switch back to the move tool and hold the Alt key while dragging the shape to make a duplicate. Select both the triangle shape and the pupil shape while holding the Shift key. Then click the minus front button in the Pathfinder panel to cut the shape out. Once the inking is complete, draw a selection around all the paths and press Command and X to cut the artwork. Turn off the visibility of the sketch layer and unlock the original artwork layer. Press Command and F to paste the line work back in place. Make selections of the legs and the arm in the background, then right click and choose Arrange Center Back. Those coloured shapes currently don't have a black outline. Select each one in turn and press Command and C and Command and F to copy and paste in front. Replace the coloured fill with a black stroke, then apply the tapered brush and bump up the stroke weight as appropriate. If you want to adjust where the taper starts and ends, use the scissors tool to clip the path. Use the blob brush tool to fill in any other areas that require a fill colour, such as the whites of the eyes. Alter the stacking order by repeatedly pressing the Command and square bracket shortcut until the white shapes sit below the black outlines. The same method can be used to fill the overlap where the facial features extend beyond the edge of the sausage. Don't forget to paint in a shape to fill the white gloves. It can be difficult to see where they're placed against a white background, so temporarily turn the artboards back on under the View menu, then move the artwork over the grey background. Send these shapes to the back so they sit underneath the black line work, then turn the artboards back off. Restricting the illustration to a limited colour palette is a good way to tap into the retro style. Use the existing colours to make fill shapes for the other areas of the illustration. Subtle details like highlight lines are the finishing touches that can bring an illustration to life. Draw simple strokes with the blob brush with a white fill. A shadow can help ground the character. Draw an ellipse with a black fill, then send it to the back. Draw a rectangle over the entire illustration and choose a neutral colour as the fill. Send it to the bottom of the stack to act as a background. One last touch is to add a subtle texture overlay. Download and open one of my photocopy textures into Photoshop. The texture first needs inverting so it's black on white. Use the Command and I shortcut, then copy and paste the texture into Illustrator. Scale the texture to fit over the background rectangle, then change the blending mode to multiply to add the grainy details to the illustration. The final result is a fun mascot character in a retro style. The simple shapes, bold outlines and traits of 1930s cartoons all add to the classic illustration style, which is enhanced with the limited colour palette and the addition of a subtle texture overlay. So if you enjoyed this tutorial or learned any new illustration tips or tricks, a thumbs up on the video to help spread the word would be really appreciated. Subscribe to my channel to stick around for more, and join my mailing list over at Spoon Graphics to get your hands on more of my free design resources. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, what's up everybody, this is Mr. H, and today I thought I would draw some hands, some cartoon hands. So, I'm drawing these hands, and the reason I say cartoon hands is because the hands only have 4 fingers. Okay? So I like to practice with the cartoon hands because a lot of times in animation you reduce the number of fingers to make things a little bit easier. You're sort of simplifying. But also, drawing hands is a really complicated, difficult task. So often, if you're working on that, you probably want to start with the 4-fingered hand and sort of get good at that, and then you can move on to the 5-fingered hand and get more realistic. But it helps to really get the structure down on the cartoon hands. So draw the hands from all kinds of different angles in that kind of cartoon form, just as a way, as like a stepping stone to the more advanced level stuff. So you can see that in this hand that I just drew, I started with sort of a pentagon, and that's like the underlying structure that I like to begin with. And that's a tip that I saw Jim Lee, the famous artist of Batman comics. He works, does a lot of stuff for DC. I saw him do that in a demo, and I thought that was a really, really great tip, and I adopted it. So I recommend starting with a 5-sided polygon as a good foundation for drawing hands. So you can see that all these drawings are pretty rough, doing a lot of erasing, trying to get the spacing right, trying to get the shapes just right. Notice that on both of these hands here, I've got the sort of the palm of the hand. There's like these 2 curvatures at the base of the palm, right? So you have these 2 sort of masses right there that you want to sort of emphasize. And then as the hand sort of goes from the hand to the wrist or the arm, I've got sort of like a cylindrical shape there, and I'm sort of drawing the sort of classic cartoon gloves. Now I want to make sure that I have a little curvature on that cylindrical shape and the transition between the arm and the hand, and that gives the illusion of 3D shape or form. Now notice on this last drawing right here, I'm drawing through, so I'm overlapping the 2 fingers that are sort of curled in, okay, and having that drawing through and sort of spacing those 2 things, drawing through really helps me to figure out where everything's going to be placed. So don't be afraid to draw in those extra lines and then erase them later. So I think drawing hands, sitting down and just focusing on hands is a great exercise to work on every once in a while. And that way when you're doing those more important drawings, you have that extra practice. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.
दोस्तों अब पुराने बहुत सारे कार्टून कैरेक्टर्स तो देखे ही होंगे। जहां अगर हम बात करें डिज्नी और उनके कार्टून कैरेक्टर्स की, तो क्या आपने कभी सोचा है कि उनकी जितने भी कार्टून कैरेक्टर्स होते थे वो अपने हाथों में ग्लव्स क्यों पहनते थे? असल में ये सारे कार्टून कैरेक्टर्स बहुत ज़्यादा ही पुराना है। उस समय सारे फिल्म्स ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट होता था, इसलिए उन कैरेक्टर्स के हाथों को कभी कभी बॉडी के खिलाफ देखना मुश्किल था, तो उनके हाथों को हाईलाइट करने के लिए हाथों में व्हाइट ग्लव्स पहनाया गया था। दूसरी वजह यह है कि जब इन कार्टून कैरेक्टर्स को ड्रॉ किया जाता था तब हाथों के बदले ग्लव्स ड्रॉ करना बहुत ज़्यादा आसान होता था, और इन्होंने जो कार्टून कैरेक्टर्स बनाते थे उनमें एक ह्यूमन टच भी रखना चाहते थे। तो यही कुछ रीजन थे जिसकी वजह से डिज्नी के सारे कार्टून कैरेक्टर्स ग्लव्स पहना करते थे।
No sabe quién habla.
No. ¿Quién habla y por qué tiene mi celular?
Veras no sabe quién habla.
No sé quién demonios habla porque hay interferencia. ¿Quién habla?
Pues váyase al diablo. No sabe quién habla. Claro, pero como no sabe quién habla, no sabe quién tiene el celular. Podemos jugar un rato con el celular del maestro, miren. Aquí en el directorio telefónico de la maestra Canuta podemos buscar números. Y en cualquiera de estos números lo marcamos, miren. Perdone, ¿está el señor Morado?
Sí, sí está el señor Morado.
Pues al ser un camote. ¿Tú quieres un camote?
Sí. ¿Habla Dora?
Sí, habla Dora.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This time I will show you some new building hacks about your favorite pets plushies. If you are watching my channel, you can find some of these hacks in my previous videos. And you know, these are my originals. So I hope you will enjoy this video, give big thumbs up, subscribe and let's get started.
Que con el paliacate de los hijos no lo voy a identificar nunca.
Ay, hijo, deja de estarme molestando en el trabajo.
¡Vamos, reconocido! Pues hacer por la máscara ahí.
Maestro, yo tengo una tarjeta para hablar por teléfono, pero no sirve. Mire, bueno. No sirve. Quiere intentarlo para que...
¡Me dijo que es gallego!
No, él no es gallego, es burro. El chico es burro. ¿Dónde sacaste tu tarjeta?
¿De la bolsa?
No, ¿y dónde la encontraste?
Ah, en la calle.
Sí. A lo mejor ya se le acabó el dinero, por eso la tiraron.
Sí. Puede que tenga razón, Jorgito. Si no se oye nada.
Vete buscándole el sonido a las monedas.
let me know how do you like it, and if you have some ideas for a new video, please comment down below. And bye!
Hi guys, and welcome back to Macaroon. I realized that for some reason I've always uploaded plushie videos on Christmas Day, so I thought this would be a nice tradition to keep. 2018 is going to be the Chinese Year of the Dog, so I decided to make this cute puppy plush loosely based on the emoji. If you're new here, then a big welcome, and please subscribe to both of my channels, and be sure to check out my plushie playlist, which has tons of tutorials for other animals. To get started, you'll need some fluffy socks. These two colors actually came in the same set from H&M, so if there's a shop close to you, then you might still be able to get the same ones. First, take the white sock, turn it inside out, and then press the heel part flat, just like this. Then grab a pen and draw a curve slightly above the heel. I'll be using black thread in this video because you can see it better on camera, however you should always use the same color thread that matches your sock. Begin by backstitching along the line. If you've never made sock plushies before, then I strongly recommend watching this video here, which explains all of the stitches in detail. A backstitch is where your stitches overlap each other slightly, and this helps with drawing the fabric together a lot more strongly. Now cut out your sock just above the curve. Turn the sock the right way around and grab a large handful of stuffing. You'd be amazed at how much can fit inside these socks, so make sure you use as much as I'm doing here. Start by pushing the first ball inside to create the head, and then use a slightly larger ball of stuffing to create the body. Once you're happy with the shape, trim the fabric if needed, and then sew a running stitch all around the edge. This is the easiest type of stitch, and if you tug on the thread, then it should pull the opening close just like a drawstring bag. Then sew another circle across these tiny folds and pull the thread so that everything is sealed completely. And lastly, just crisscross the thread several times and tie a knot to make sure everything is secured in place. A good trick for hiding the thread is to exit somewhere else in the plushie and then cut the thread close to the fabric so it simply disappears into the stuffing. Next, take your other sock and draw two avocado shapes like this. These are going to be the ears. Backstitch along the outline, but make sure you leave a tiny gap at the very top. Then cut out both pieces and flip them around.
Ahorita que no está la maestra, se los voy a decir. Es muy curioso cómo se aparean las focas, ¿eh? Porque tienen una manera muy especial de hacer el amor. Empiezan con un sonidito así. Está ahí y de repente empieza la foca macho a hacer... ¡Me hablabas poquito!
There's no need to stuff these since the sock fabric is already so thick and fluffy. Simply attach these onto the body using a ladder stitch. This is where you alternate one stitch on the head and one stitch on the ear. Once again, if you find the sewing techniques confusing, then please watch this video here where everything is explained step by step in detail. I'm going to be using beads for eyes, but you can also use buttons or simply glue on circles of black felt. If you decide to use small beads like this, then it's important to attach the eyes using one piece of thread. This can be slightly fiddly because you have to push the needle back and forth all the time. However, this method really helps you achieve a professional result. Both of your eyes will look symmetrical and be slightly indented into the plush. Afterwards, you can exit the thread under the ear, which helps to hide any loose ends. To make the nose, I'm simply cutting out a piece of brown felt and sticking this on using craft glue. Then I'm using some thick embroidery thread to create the mouth. This step is probably the most difficult part of this DIY, so if you have any problems with it, then you can simply make the whole mouth using fabric felt instead. That method is shown in more detail in this Pusheen plush video. Now take the remaining piece of sock and draw a curve next to the heel. Backstitch along the line, making sure to leave a small opening at the top. Then cut this out and turn everything back to front. Once again, there's no need to stuff anything since the sock fabric is already so fluffy. Just attach it to the body and your tail is done. Lastly, cut out 2 circles from the leftover fabric. These should be about 5 centimeters or 2 inches in diameter. Sew a running stitch along the edge and then add a tiny piece of stuffing to the center. Now gently pull the thread shut while pushing the stuffing inside with your other hand, and you should be able to get a perfect ball like this. Make several stitches across the top to hold the opening closed, and then attach this to the body. Then simply repeat the process to make the other foot. And now your puppy sock plush is done. I realized that this ended up looking a lot like a bunny. So what do you think? Leave a comment down below with the emoji that you think best fits to this plush. I hope all of you are having a well-deserved break, and I'm honored that we got to spend a few minutes of the holidays together. You can also follow me on Instagram to see what I'm doing right now on Christmas Day. This is Joanna, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
Pues que nos despierta un gallo en la casa echó a correr. Una gallinita, hasta se le paró el copetito al gallito.
Para varias, como de costumbre llegó tarde.
Pues es que no...
Cállese, todavía no le pregunto lo que le tengo que decir. ¿Por qué no despierta a su papá para que llegue temprano?
Si despierto a mi papá, me despierto y llego más tarde. Mi papá se despierta todos los días a las 12.
¡A las 12! ¡Es el colmo! Yo me levanto todos los días a las 7:05.
Ah, pues igual que tu papá.
¿Cómo que igual tan que a las 12? Yo me levanto a las 7:05.
¿Cuántos son 7:05?
12.
Ahí está.
Esperando a la dirección porque tenemos una junta muy importante la maestra y yo.
Ah, deben llevar de junta. Van a juntar sus cositas.
Oye, gordito,
tiene mi celular.
¿De veras no sabe quién habla?
No sé quién demonios habla porque hay interferencia. ¿Quién habla?
Pues váyase al diablo.
Good morning, I'm Morgan Donner, and today's video is all about how to make a medieval men's hood. Specifically, I'm interested in creating one from the Nuremberg House books, also known as the 12 Brothers book.
Aquí en el directorio telefónico de la maestra Canuta podemos buscar
For the
números.
most part, these are pretty normal standard medieval hoods, with one exception. They've kind of gone away from the whole mirror pipe fashion from years prior, and instead that sort of oddly evolved into this kind of front and or back top feel. But you can leave off the flaps. It'll be a perfectly normal medieval hood without them. So, but let's get to it. Starting off, you're going to need some measurements of your noggin to make that hood happen.
Voice over time, measure around your face, giving yourself an extra inch or so of beads so that you can open your jaw, and then transfer half of that measurement to the fabric from the folded edge up top down.
In order to make sure that you can actually physically pull on over your head, we're going to need head circumference.
Again, fold this in half and measure perpendicularly from your first baseline. For a simple hood like this, these two are really the only measurements you need. Although if you want your hood skirt to be of a particular length, consider measuring that out too. I'm just eyeballing it, aiming for just a smidge past the shoulder. Make 45-degree angle marks away from the head measurements. The back of the head needs to be rounded off a little bit for the style too. Cut out the hood, leaving plenty of room for seam allowance. I didn't mention it before because it was a little bit out of frame, but whenever you draw the rounded hemline of the mantle, make sure that your corners start at right angles. To make sure that the hood will drape nicely over your shoulders, we'll need to add some godettes to each side. Cut almost up to the neck and toss a triangle in there. I literally just grabbed the cutoff from the right of the hood over here and stuck it in. To verify that your godette is wide enough, just measure from shoulder to shoulder, giving the same drape that the hemline will have, and then compare that to the hood pattern. Looks good, so I'll keep on going. I can remove the excess length from the new insert, but do be careful to leave a little bit of extra. You're going to need that in a moment. Flip the triangle or godette over and pin it to one edge of the new cut. Repeat the same thing on the other side of the hood. Sew the pinned seam, starting from the outside, and as you make your way in, shift the tip of the godette as shown.
Voy a vacilar a la vieja Canuta. Como no sabe quién es lo que hay interferencia ni se va a enterar, y está usando el teléfono del viejo patito. Bueno, quiero hablar con la vieja loca de la Canuta.
Con ella hablar.
Ay, adivina quién habla.
Rotate the godette triangle to the second seam. I like to keep the needle inserted while I do that. And then sew the second seam. Inserting godettes can be a little tricky, so consider searching online for how to sew a godette if you've never done one before. I recognize that I'm not showing it very clearly here, sorry about that. Repeat the same steps for the second godette, and now we can join the front and back seams of the hood. Make sure that you have the outer fabric sides together and pin them in place. For the front seam, stop pinning at the neck. For the back seam, pin all the way up, including around the little curved bit here. Speaking of that curved section, make sure that when you're sewing to sort of gradually leave the seam, stop it too abruptly and you'll end up with a sort of bump, kind of like you would with a badly sewn dart. Success! The main seams of the hood are sewn, and if you want to call it quits here, you totally can. This is a perfectly functional hood. That said, I'd like to go ahead and secure the edges to keep them from fraying. Starting with the godettes, I'll trim away half of the seam allowance on one side, and then fold the longer allowance edge over the shorter one. You can sew and flip the edges as you go along, using the needle tip to sort of tuck the fabric in right before each stitch, or you can pin the seam allowance down first with several pins, and then sew. It's much less fiddly as you go. No fancy stitches are required. You can use a whip stitch like me, because that shit's my jam, or you can use a running stitch, a back stitch, blanket stitch, whatever suits your fancy. For the face opening of the hood, I've turned the edge over twice and pinned it down, following that turned edge into the front seam. Unlike the other seams, where I went for sort of a flat felled approach, the front is just a pair of twice turned allowances. Double the work, because you have to sew each side, but it does look very neat and tidy. Clean up the hem by cutting away any ragged edges, and fold this edge twice too. All of the raw edges of the hood are now contained and will stand up to the angriest of washing machines. Excellent! If you just want a normal hood, stop here. But if you want to explore the curious nature of the front and or back flap hood thing, continue on. I'm cutting a strip of fabric about 10 inches or so wide. In the 12 Brothers Housebook illustrations, some of the hoods have straps as narrow as maybe 5 inches, while others are almost the width of the body, so maybe 18. 10 seems like kind of a good compromise. I'm finishing up the edges of the hood with a narrow hem and whip stitching the folded edge down. A quick little bit of ironing to flatten things out, and then we're ready to attach the front and back panel. I've temporarily pinned them in place just to check if things look right, and then did more pins and some stitching to hold it. I sort of wish I had sewn it closer to the neck, where these stitches would have been hidden by the folds near the neck, but the panels would have been too short. Oh well, learn from my mistake, and go ahead and attach these panels a little bit higher up. And now the hood is all done. As is the whole outfit, actually. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this hood, and if you're inspired to make your own hood or any other part of this outfit, I would love to see it. Please do tag me on Instagram at Morgan Donner or on Facebook page Morgan Donner Showing Party. If you're tired of all this boy clothing nonsense, you're in luck, folks, as I'm going to soon be starting a very sexy heraldic gown in the near future. Stay tuned.
El teléfono se compone de dos partes. Una es el auricular, que es por donde se oye.
¿Cómo se llama por donde se habla?
Hocico.
¿Qué dijo?
¿Qué dice bocina?
Ay, pues la maestra tiene una bocinota, ¿verdad?
Micrófono. Y viene de micro.
Ya sé. Si viene del micro, también hay peceras, un autobús, el trolebús.
Ya.
Hola, ¿por qué me juega?
¿Por qué? Porque le estaba dando la idea, por eso. Allí nada más bobeando,
Sí,
¿no?
maestra, pero sí me agarró descuidado, oiga. ¿De qué se ríe?
Lo que pasa es que... ¿Ahora qué?
Ya me volvió a capturar el dedo, maestra.
No me hagas señas.
No le hago señas, te dejó el dedo como invasado.
Cállese ya. Lo que pasa es que usted me está sacando canas verdes.
¿Y por qué salen las canas verdes?
De los corajes que me hace pasar.
Ay, usted se pasó muchos corajes al señor director.
Sí, pero él no tiene canas verdes.
Pues no, pues se le cae con todo el pelo, maestra.
Estamos hablando de un notable invento, el teléfono. Pero no debemos dejar el reloj.
No, si dejo el reloj, mi papá me mata.
Me refiero a que de tarea les dejamos que trajeran su reloj despertador para que entre todos los pongamos a tiempo. Para ver si alguna vez en la vida este baboso llega temprano.
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
¿Qué dijo? ¿Qué dijo?
Que si usted tocó el automínimo. Bueno, y se enoje. Usted no lo tomó, usted es la mazagua.
¿Qué pasaba? No hay nada.
Ya, por favor. En lo sucesivo, cuando yo quiera hablar, cállense.
¿Y cuando no quiera hablar?
otro invento maravilloso es el foco. Y las foquitas. Pero es una lástima, ¿verdad?
Sí, es una lástima cuando los focos están fundidos. No sirven.
No sirven porque a veces está trasroscado el soco.
Hey guys, my name is Meads. Welcome to my channel. I'm doing this experiment, and pretty much what prompted me to get or to do this one is Space Godzilla. Yep. And I need some crystals, and I got this from my local toy store, which actually quite a few toy stores still left in San Francisco. It's Jeffrey's Toys. It's along Market Street, and I'm so glad that they're still around because, well, there's no Toys R Us anywhere near me, I think. Oh, far away. No more toys! No! I mean, I can always go to Target or some other place. Anyways, let's go started. Instructions said to pour hot water here. So actually, I almost boiled over while microwaving the water. So, just gotta take this out. Still at the mark, okay. So I have to pour it up to here. So I have some water here. It's really hot. Actually, I'm gonna be extra careful and put a bowl on top of it. Just to be safe. I'm pouring over. Great. Silly me. There we go. I think that's enough. I got some water everywhere. Get this out. Get the hot water away. And 1 second, let me just grab some paper towel. Gotta be ready, gotta have paper towel. Alright, so next I'm supposed to dissolve this stuff here using this metallic spoon. They do give you this metallic spoon. So why don't I just use a scissor, and I don't wanna make a mess. There we go. Pour it in. Okay. I just stir it. There's like a big chunk there. I don't want to just. There we go. Big chunk. Okay. This is hot water. It dissolves quite easily, which is good. Everything is there. Alright. I don't know. Maybe I should have put less. Less water. A bit too high. Alright. Stir around. Let me see. I forgot what the instructions said. Okay. Add the contents of a large bag. Stir until all the powder has dissolved to make a solution. Okay. So I'm still stirring. And allow it to cool down, huh? So I'll just continue stirring this, and I'll continue my video once it's settled down. Alright, so pretty much the solution here is oversaturated. If you increase the temperature, you can actually put more stuff on it, but when it cools down, it will start to pretty much, what's that term? Precipitate? Well, I'm not even sure that's what. It's been a while since I took chemistry, but the thing is, we have the seeding, pretty much crystals here that will start the crystallization process. And since this is oversaturated, once it starts to cool down and you have this seed here, it will just, it will spark. Well, not spark, but I mean, it will just start there.